Okay, this class is Keeping Your Anger in Check. My name is Desiree. I am a certified anger management facilitator and I'm a certified drug and alcohol counselor. Okay, first things first, let's talk about keeping your anger in check. So, these are some questions that you can ask yourself. Is my anger in control or does it make me out of control? Anger can be an adaptive reaction to what is unfair and unjust. However, all too often, we let anger control us rather than us being in control of our anger. Is my anger due to intolerance and narrow mindedness, thinking people should be like me? At times, our anger arises not from healthy reasons, but from intolerance, disgust, narrow mindedness, and the refusal to let go of unrealistic expectations of yourself and others. Is my thinking too all or nothing and extreme? The ability to keep our thoughts in perspective in order to combat irrational thinking is of prime importance to control our anger. So, thinking in black and white and extreme ways will for sure make you see red. Am I holding on to self righteous judgments and unrealistic shoulds? So, we should get rid of our unrealistic shoulds of how you think others should be, as well as combating your own need to be perfect. And that's going to provide you the foundation for healthy thinking. Do I need to keep in mind the long term consequences of what I say? Once the words come out, you can never get them back. Just like a feather pillow that's torn, once the feathers fly away, you can never get them back. Is my anger causing me to act aggressively? We want to resist the temptation to express our anger in an aggressive way. A lot of people think anger and aggression are the same thing, but they're not. Anger is a feeling, while aggression is a behavior. Feeling angry is fine, but acting aggressively is not. Do I acknowledge that anger expressed aggressively leads to shame? Once you're no longer seeing red, most healthy people regret behaviors that were done and words that were said in anger. This is going to lead to shame, which will then turn the anger inward towards yourself. Am I more interested in being right or being kind? Arguments happen because people want to be right, ignoring the importance of building relationships and being kind. So now we need to think about, what do you need to remember to keep your anger in check? You need to remember these things and ask yourself these questions. Okay, when we think about anger, we have an anger meter and we need to determine where we're at on this anger meter. So you can see that we have the total state of calm is down here at a 1 or 2, and then it starts to escalate up to a 10. And once you get to a 10, there's a consequence. There can be an explosion, violence, loss of control, negative consequences, and you always lose. But you do have a choice. You can use your anger control plan to avoid reaching the 10. And we'll get to that anger control plan in a little bit. But what I want you to realize is that as we are getting more and more angry, we start to experience cues. And we'll talk about those cues in a minute. And we'll talk about the things that trigger us to become angry. But it's important for us to sit with ourselves and figure out where we are on that meter. Okay, so now let's talk about our anger cues. So, our bodies are physically going to tell us when we're angry. So, you might have rapid breathing, an increased heart rate, your blood pressure may rise, you might start sweating, have sweaty palms, your mouth might get dry, you may become more alert. You might become less sensitive to pain. You might become stronger and have increased muscle strength. You might have your tensed eyebrows, pursed lips, reddening of the face. You might be clenching your fists. You might be pacing. You might be feeling something in your belly. Um, all of these things are going to tell you that, hey, you're getting angry and you probably need to calm down. So it's important to be aware of what our body is telling us so that we can understand where we're at on that anger meter. So we have 4 different cues that will tell us that we're angry. So we have the physical cues, which we just talked about, which is how our body responds, like the increased heart rate, the tightness in the chest, maybe feeling hot or flushed, all those things that we just said. And then we have behavioral cues. So clenching your fist, raising your voice, staring at others, those are behavioral things. Maybe pacing, those are some things that might be behavioral. Some emotional cues are other feelings that might happen along with anger, such as fear, hurt, jealousy, and disrespect. And some cognitive cues. So, this is what you're thinking about in response to what happened. You can have hostile self talk, like the things that you say to yourself, images of aggression and revenge. So, thinking about hurting another person or doing something to their property. All of these things are going to tell you that you are becoming more angry. So, what I want you to do is just pause the video really quick and think about some of your physical, behavioral, emotional, and cognitive cues and just jot those things down. Feel free to pause the video, grab a sheet of paper, and write down what your cues are for yourself. Now, let's talk about triggers. Okay, you can see up here I have the anger meter. So down here we're calm, we're getting frustrated, and we're getting angry, and now we're furious when we get up here. So what I want you to do is on your piece of paper, you can pause the video, and I want you to read each of the items and rank them from 1 to 10 how angry each trigger makes you. So this is for the younger people. There's another one next that we can go through. If you want to get to the next screen for maybe some older people, but it's pretty much the same thing. So at home, my siblings touch my things. I get in trouble for something I didn't do. I get treated unfairly. I get ignored. Someone calls me a name. I get told no. My parents yell at me. I get grounded. I lose at a game or an activity. My parents argue. Someone breaks a promise and I have to stop playing. Next to each one of those, I want you to put either a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10 and tell me how angry each trigger makes you. And then there's some for school. Like I got a bad grade on a test or a project, someone steals my things, I get in trouble for something I didn't do, I lose during a game or activity, someone calls me a name I didn't like, the work's too hard for me, people talk about me behind my back, the teacher doesn't call on me, someone touched my stuff, I have too much work to do, someone tells me what to do, I don't understand the assignment, someone lies to me, I get treated unfairly, and then if you're on a team or you're in the neighborhood, if you get criticized for your performance, my friends don't include me, I don't play well in a game, someone talks trash about my family, someone talks trash about me, I lose a game or activity, I'm talked about behind my back, and no one tells me good job. And then if you can think of any other anger triggers that you might have, you can just jot those down too. So these are some other anger triggers that might push your buttons. Um, if that first list didn't apply to you, then some of these things on this list might. So being told on, having to wait, being hungry, someone cheating, being touched, having too much to do, rumors or gossip, hurt or pain, being scared, hearing bad news, being treated unfairly, tests or grades, being late, being criticized, being tired, being ignored, a misunderstanding, being disrespected, being bumped into, loud noises, losing a game, an accident, being left out, being bullied, an interruption, things do not go as planned, things are not fair, not understanding what to do or being told what to do. Figure out what it is that triggers you to become angry. And even on this list, you can write the 1 through 10 next to each one of these. Feel free to press pause at any point if you need more time to work on them. So, taking control of your anger triggers. No one can make us angry. We're in charge of our emotions and our behaviors. Whatever triggers you is in your control. So let's think about the example of a child's anger at a sibling and how the usual aggressive response can be changed to a healthier reaction. So the example is, I'm so angry when my brother tells me that I'm fat. And my usual response is to tell him to shut up, stomp off, or punch him. The changed response would be tell him assertively that I do not appreciate him saying that and asking for an apology. This requires no yelling or childish behavior. If he does not stop, I can walk away and seek the help of a parent or an adult. So, can you think of some own examples of how you can change your response? Think of what your example is, what your usual response is, and your changed response. But remember, you deserve to be treated respectfully. When you are treated with disrespect, it does not mean that you act disrespectfully back. Just be assertive and set limits, even if you need to walk away. So, here's some coping tools that can help you to maybe cope with some of the anger that you are dealing with. So, if you feel yourself getting angry, you can do any one of these things on here that might give you some time to calm down and come back down on that anger meter. So, what I would like for you to do is go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to write down some of the things that you can do to bring yourself down on the anger meter. And it's good to see your triggers and your coping skills right next to each other. So I want you to write down your top 10 anger triggers. And then out next to those, I'd like for you to write down what your coping skills will be when you experience those triggers. Feel free to pause the video so you have time to complete that. So we are in control of our anger. We're in charge of it. We don't give anyone else that power. So, when you're angry, you can ask yourself these questions. Is my anger in my control or does it make me out of control? Am I thinking in all or nothing extreme ways using words like I can't stand it or I hate him? Do I expect people should be more like me or how I think they should be? Is my thinking too all or nothing and extreme? Am I too critical of others? Do I keep in mind the long term consequences of what I say, remembering that once things are said or done, I can't take them back? Is my anger causing me to behave aggressively? Am I more interested in being right or being kind? And how can I turn my anger into a goal? Those are the questions that we need to ask ourselves. Anger arises not from another person, but from what we tell ourselves about that other person. No one is going to be able to make you angry. That happens between your own ears. People can trigger our anger, but it's up to us to develop rational coping statements so that our anger does not get out of control. When we're angry, our self talk is often inflexible, judgmental, extreme, black or white, and it's characterized by shoulding on others and ourselves. When I say that, I mean you should do this, or you should do that, or you shouldn't cut me off in traffic, you shouldn't take my pencil. So, putting that should word on other people. That's what I mean by that. And by recognizing our extreme habits of thinking and developing healthier coping statements, we can reduce our anger. So, here's an example of anger producing thoughts and anger reducing thoughts. So, if you said, he makes me so mad, the anger reducing thought would be, he does not have the ability to make me feel anything. My feelings are an inside job. Rather, I am mad at him. Because remember, he can't make me mad. I'm mad at him. What about I hate her? You could say I really do not like her. He ruined my life. You could say I'm very upset with him. She has no right to say that. You could say I'm disappointed that she said that. I won't let him get away with this. I'll tell him that I'm very offended about what he said or did. So now it's your turn. I want you to come up with your own anger producing thoughts and your own anger reducing thoughts, kind of a way to challenge those anger producing thoughts. And I'd like for you to write down at least two on your paper. So go ahead and pause the video and write down two anger producing thoughts and flip those around to anger reducing thoughts. Do you feel angry and you don't know what to do? How about imagining a stop sign? Remember to spot thoughts over a pause. You can see the STOP, stop. Spot thoughts over a pause. That means you have to pause. You have to imagine a stop sign and stop and pause. Think about what you're thinking. Are they helpful thoughts? When you feel angry, you don't need to be aggressive, which is taking out your anger on others, even if they are not acting nicely to you. So, when you do that, imagine the stop sign, stop and pause, and think about what are you thinking? Are they any helpful thoughts? An unhelpful thought would be, he's an idiot. A helpful thought you can replace it with is, I don't like his behavior, but that doesn't mean that he's worthless or an idiot. Rather, you can think, he is a person who is acting badly, but it doesn't mean that he's a bad person. So, separating the person from the behavior. So, what are some unhelpful thoughts that you might think of when you're angry? And can you think of a more helpful thought when you stop and pause? So, what I want you to do is write down at least two unhelpful thoughts and then turn those into helpful thoughts. Feel free to pause the video if you need time to complete this. Now we're going to make an anger checklist. This is our plan that we talked about earlier. Coming up with a plan. So, check off any items that apply and then explain them on your paper. Well, you're going to have to write them down, but can you identify your anger triggers? Can you describe how it feels? Can you identify your irrational self-talk? And can you replace it with more rational self-talk? And have you thought about healthy ways to handle your anger? And then we need to figure out what to do when we're angry. So we can check off ideas that can help us to manage our anger, like counting to 10 before responding, keeping calm with healthy self talk, writing our feelings in a journal, remembering I statements. So, an I statement would be, when you do blank, I feel blank. So, when you call me fat, I feel hurt. It kind of takes the sting off of what you're saying and it makes it more about how you're feeling than about what the other person's behavior is. You can talk about it with a friend. You can take a walk to cool down. You can forgive others for being unhealthy. You can remove yourself from the situation. You can role play ways with a friend or a parent or someone that you trust to handle your anger. You can even write a letter, but you don't have to send it. You can just write the letter and then throw it away. Remind yourself to only change yourself, not others. You can't change anyone else. You can only change yourself. You can confront someone assertively. So, assertively would be not aggressively and not passively. Assertive would be stating how you feel, what the other person did to make you feel that way, and then asking for a change. Not demanding a change, but asking for a change. Or you can ask for an apology. You can draw what you're feeling. Art therapy is fantastic. Drawing it out helps you to see it on paper and see how you're really feeling. You can look behind the difficult behavior and think, why is that person acting like that? And try to figure out where the other person is coming from. Identify your shoulds. So, this is your irrational thinking. Why should that person be behaving that way? Why do you believe that they should do this or should not do that? You can breathe very slowly. You can exercise to discharge any energy that you have. You can ask for help, or you can take a time out. So you're going to ask yourself, how will my life be different if I'm able to put these ideas into practice? And then ask yourself, are there other strategies that might work for me? And just jot those things down on your paper. Feel free to pause the video if you need time.